What would you say you do here?
It's the Signal Chords, home of the Underground podcast. A podcast dedicated to up-and-coming bands, labels, artists, and more. Plug in and join your host, Brad Nunnery, as he dives deep into what the future of music has to hold and discover something new along the way. What else do you have to do?
Hey, this is Jared with Modern Inks, and you're listening to Signal Chords, the home of the Underground podcast.
The latest song and music video from our friends in Modern Inks. It's called Indigestion. Modern Inks are a really killer punk rock band based out of St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you so much to Jared White for recording that promo for us. Really do appreciate it, man. Now, rumor on the street is that Modern Inks already has a brand new album already in the can. So we're going to talk to our next guest all about that album and when we can expect it. But for now, if you want to find out more information on Modern Angst, you can visit them on any social media platform at modern.angst.band. All right, good stuff. What's up, everybody? My name is Brad Nunnery. Welcome to Signal Chords, home of the Underground podcast, season 2, episode 3, presented by 1603 Designs. My guest tonight is Brandon Lewis, the founder of Punkerton Records. Punkerton Records are a record label that specializes in punk, pop punk, folk, alt country, all that good stuff. He has a lot of really killer bands already under his label, like Middle Out, Panther Revival, Modern Angst, who you saw in the intro, Knives, and Danny Attack. We're going to talk to him all about those bands, plenty more bands as well. And we're also going to talk about being military veterans. Both him and I served our country, him in the Army and me in the Navy. And we're going to talk to him about his service and, you know, kind of how it relates to running a record label. So stick around, hang out. It's Signal Chords, home of the Underground podcast.
We're insatiable lovers that we don't really mean to be, and I favor the madness, just a breathe. So let's sink in the sadness where you know me, fade back in the moment that we don't need. We're insatiable lovers that we don't really mean to be, and I favor the madness, just a breathe. And I favor the madness, just a breathe. And I favor the madness, just a breathe.
That's the latest song and music video from Danny Attack. It's called Insatiable Lovers. He's got a brand new record coming out on June 1st. It's called Kiss You in Hell. It's on Punkerton Records. And speaking of Punkerton Records, I've got the man behind that label, Brandon Lewis. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to finally talk to you. You and I have kind of been social media friends, and I've helped you out with a whole bunch of bands with, you know, like Lame Ass Dads and Prime Directive and all that kind of stuff in the past, in Modern Angst, and whole bunch of good bands that you got behind your label. But it's really great to talk to you after all this time. I know it's been a couple years.
I know it has. I appreciate you've definitely been one of those early supporters. So I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I love what you're doing, and I love Danny Attack, and I love what he's doing. He's got one hell of a voice. I really love this song a lot. I know he's in Knives, and we'll talk about Knives here in a little bit, but I got to give some love for my hometown. Well, he's not my hometown. He's 2 hours away, but I'm in Orlando. He's in Jacksonville. But if you're from Florida, you're a hometown boy. So much love to Danny. I can't wait for this record to come out. The pre-orders, the vinyl pre-orders are up now. Can people pre-order the vinyls and all that stuff?
Yeah. If you go to punkertonrecords.com, they're up for pre-order. Right now they're going to be in, we have 4 different colors. We got them pressed in 5. He's got a tour version for himself. I don't want to spoil that color, but it comes in white, it comes in pink, it comes in gold. And then my favorite, it's white with like red splatter, so it looks like blood. So if you look at the album cover, it fits. So pretty excited about that one.
Yeah, I've seen all the promos for it. It looks amazing. The detail into the record looks really awesome. So this is his first record under your label, correct?
Yeah. He's released. He had a album. I don't think he was attached to a label. His previous record was on Chain Smoking Records. I believe that's it's correct. I'm sorry guys if I got it wrong. And then he's got essentially a sort of a live recording record that he did that he just put out. But yeah, we met through a mutual friend, Jamin Marshall, from Larry and His Flask. Cool. He was helping him out with some stuff, and he's like, "Hey, I got this guy coming through," and I helped get Danny a show here in Columbus, and just you're talking about his voice, just it's amazing. His live performance. Funny enough, we got him. We had a real big show. It was planned at this place called The Stoop, but it shut down. It was like last minute, and so we got him hopped on, the show with all these punk bands, and it was fast energy, all this stuff. And Danny plays, just by himself, and I mean, he had, a bunch of just hard punk rock kids just staring in awe. Everybody loved it. It was such a fantastic, and I was like, okay, yeah, this guy, yeah. So I'm glad that he and I were able to work some stuff out.
If you can work a crowd, a fast-paced punk crowd, and you just go out there with an acoustic guitar, it's good on them, man. And you can pull a crowd like that. That's saying a lot, and I can understand why. Was that kind of the turning point to where you're like, all right, I got to get this guy. And is he? Do you look at every band and say, oh, are they represented or whatnot? Or
well, so the label that he had released his prior through, he had a show with Harley Poe down in Kentucky, and he's like, hey, I'm playing the show, I'm kind of close, and coincidentally enough, actually, it was the same night. It was the earlier that day I had proposed to my now fiance, and so I had proposed to her, and then like boom, I left 4-hour drive down to Kentucky. But yeah, he opened up for Harley Poe and Homeless Gospel Choir, and I mean, it was a very, very packed venue, and all these people who had never heard of him, just again, they were in awe. They were like, I love his voice, I love his performance, his stage banner, which I'm sure obviously that's hard to do sometimes when it's just you and an acoustic guitar, especially depending on what the crowd is there for. But he that really impressed me. And of course we had already become friends at this point, and I was like, look, man, I don't know what it's going to take,
right,
but I definitely want to release some of your music. So
yeah, it worked out, and I'm glad it did. And I know did Knives come before his solo stuff, or did he was he in Knives and then just kind of branched out and did his solo stuff?
So he did he was doing his solo stuff, and a lot of people, I guess, had been asking him, hey, because on his solo record he does have other musicians playing. I mean, for instance, like the single he had just released, Doomscroll was on it, and he's worked with I've never seen an individual do as many like features and collaborations with a lot of people in the scene. But everybody was wanting sort of, or had been asking about him, and it's something he had been trying to do. So he set up Knives, after he had been doing his solo stuff for a while. And
Gotcha.
and if you listen to some of the Knives songs, they're the exact same songs. It's basically just it's Danny Attack songs with a punk band backing it. Now he's writing other songs specifically for Knives. But there are some, and I love how he does that. It'll be the same song, sort of country folkish, and then it's punk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was doing some research on him, that their latest song Knives is their new song Home, and then when I was backtracking trying to listen to his solo stuff, I'm like, this song sounds familiar.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
it was his solo stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. It's like two completely different versions. It's not even like a pop, like a slow acoustic pop punk. It's like folky. It's like completely different. It's a different take, and that's what I really love about it. And it was a nice surprise. And I didn't know that there was a couple more songs that were, that Knives have released that was Danny's solo stuff. So that's really cool.
Forever this night I might hold the cut of her bones resting so close, like blood on my lips, the taste of home. You dig your nails deep in my soul, lay cut through these skins and I'm yours, so silent at peace, soaked in your blood. This hell is my home. One last kiss and now go. Your fatal touch is my goal. Let's set a fire for one more night till I'm home.
Yeah, and like I said, he is writing, stuff specifically for Knives as well. That I don't, I'm not, I can't say for sure if he's going to play it as, Danny Attack, but some of the song structures may not translate well to acoustic. But
Right.
and talking about his voice again, because like honestly, that's like my favorite part of it. He's got some pipes, and he can sing really well, and it's I just love the dynamic between the solo stuff and this like pop punk, and that I think for me, that's why I wanted to work with him. I honestly think that we signed Knives first.
Did you?
Yeah, we signed Knives first, and I was like, look, man, like I'm excited to work with Knives. But if there's any chance that we can, and he's like, well, actually, and so
That's awesome. That's a great story. And yeah, he does have that voice. And I love the song Home, and that was great. And it's pop punkish, but when you listen to that solo stuff, and you could tell he's a talent. So I can't wait to hear the rest of the record that he's gonna put out. And it comes out June 1st, right?
yeah, it comes out June 1st. As far as being able to hear, a lot of it are some of the singles that he has released. And we've had, so we just got them mastered for vinyl, and in the process of that, there was a few like mixes that were lost. And so what we ended up doing is the entire record, we got it remastered at first for vinyl, and then we went ahead and just did the digital, and we're going to release all the singles that might have been out remastered, and those were all done by Chris Fogel at Black and Bloom. So that was exciting.
Nice.
We just developed a sort of a relationship with Black and Bloom, and Chris, he's done so
he's
much.
worked with like Strung Out and Lagwagon, the Bomb Pops. I saw. He's got a whole list of bands that he's worked with in the past, right?
Yeah, and being relatively new to all this, like just talking to someone who has worked with on such iconic records. I mean, he remastered a lot of those. I don't know if they're all, because I don't want to specifically, but I know like he did a lot of my favorite records from like when I was growing up. He remastered them all, and of course that Bomb Pop album that he did, you know, from start to finish. That love that record. And you know, I don't quite remember exactly how the relationship, the working relationship with him happened. I believe actually that was by Jamin as well. But at Black and Bloom, Kyle Telev, he in Counterpunch, he in the band Counterpunch, he, you know, he's the engineer there, and I'd met him at Punk Rock Bowling last year, and super nice guy and everything. And you know, he messaged me one day. He's like, "Hey, what do you think about having a meeting with me and Chris?" And this is all pretty recent. I mean, you know, we haven't even really said anything about it, but I was like, yeah, I would absolutely love to. And sort of that's sort of been like the story of the label, is like people that just these unexpected sort of relationships, whether it be the bands, the artists, like, you know, finding someone like Dan, well, you know, becoming friends with someone like Danny, right. Or, you know, I mean, somebody like I grew up listening to stuff that they've worked on, and you know, it's been pretty great. It's a really, really fantastic experience, actually.
Well, that's part of the journey, right? Like you're meeting so many different bands and so many different, you know, walks of life in this industry. You know, you never know who knows who, and it seems to be one of those types of industries to where it's like, oh, I know somebody who can do this, and I know somebody that did that and this and that. I can introduce you. You know, it seems to be a lot of that going on, which is really cool, and it's really cool because it's probably, you know, as a record label owner and making those steps and like, okay, oh, my record's, you know, mastered by this guy or whatever, you know, like you make these, you know, goals, I guess. I don't know if you have, I'm sure you have specific goals with the label and what you want to do and those hurdles you want to jump over, should I say. But that would seem to be, you know, one of those cool kind of story. That's a really cool story and a really cool thing how that came about.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've never really been hung up on, you know, who produces what or who mixes what or anything like that, because I feel like, you know, everybody starts somewhere, and you know, yeah, like don't get me wrong, we've worked with some really amazing, you know, very, very sort of well known, especially in the punk rock scene, you know, producers, you know, engineers and everything, but at the end of the day, for me, like, as long as the band loves the way that it sounds, you know, that's obviously the most important to me, right? Because I want them to get what they want out of it. And, you know, I know people who have, you know, they've produced their own record in their home studio, and it sounds phenomenal. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's really about the songs, right? Like if the songs are good, you know, whatever studio you go to, whoever's messing with it, yeah, they can make it sound a little bit better. But like if the songs are bad, it doesn't really matter how much production you get in it. They're not good songs, you know, and you know, so but yeah, no, I mean, it is really cool. I mean, you know, like, you know, I don't want to like specifically name drop, but like some of the people that I've got to, you know, work with in the studio stuff, just again, 14-year-old me would have been just freaking out, you know? So
yeah, no, that's awesome. So let's talk about Modern Angst. They kicked the episode off with their new song Indigestion. Shout out to Jared White for recording that promo for us. Thank you for hooking that up. Thank you, Jared, so much for recording that promo. Yeah, shout out to Wes Hoffman too, because he's wearing the same Wes Hoffman t-shirt in that music video that I have. So shout out to there.
Then I'm wearing a, let's say, Modern Angst shirt. So there we go.
Oh, there you it comes
full circle.
Yeah. So this is the first single from these guys on Punkerton. Do these guys have, you know, I've been trying to follow, I follow them and I follow you. It says details coming soon. Is there anything we can announce here as far as anything new from these guys, an EP, an album? Do you want to hold off on any of that right now?
No, it's fine. I don't think he'll be too mad. So they had released a single called "Don't Tell the Landlord," and that was before, you know, I came on board. And then they, you know, Jared contacted me and was like, "Hey, you know, we're sitting on this full length record. So there is a full length record.
Okay.
We also there's going to be a single coming out here in the next little while. I don't want to get,
Yeah, sure. No,
but
you keep the suspense.
but yeah. So like there's a full length, and so like the way that we normally do with the label is, 9 times out of 10 we try to put the bands in the studios ourselves. But when a band like Modern Angst comes to you with a fantastic sounding record, and they're like, "Hey, what can we do with this?" And I would be, it would be unfortunate if I didn't, at least kind of see what we could do. And they have this record, and we've got a release plan for it. And Jared, I've probably spoken to him more than I've spoken to any of my other artists. The initial conversation that we had probably lasted 2.5 hours.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he is a very, very intelligent individual, and he's about as anal as I am about things, right? And attention to detail and sort of no nonsense when it comes to the music. And I definitely admired that. Of course, I like their sound. They sound amazing. There's a few other things that I'll announce later in the show that have to do with Modern Angst. But there's a single going to be coming out pretty soon. And and of course there's going to be a record probably
fairly soon,
early fall.
Soon. Okay.
So
no, that's awesome. And they're from St. Louis, and it's probably why he was wearing a Wes Hoffman shirt showing that hometown love. So that was really cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And thanks again to Jared for recording that promo for us. All right, so let's go ahead and dive deep. Let's get off the bands for a little bit, and let's kind of pick your brain. You're a very interesting person when you sent me your bio and everything that you've kind of done in the past. And I kind of want to, I guess, start from the beginning when you first just discovered music, how you got into music. What was, I think, when you were younger, what was the band that kind of like propelled you saying, okay, I really love music. This is it. And then you try to find 20 or 30 different bands that sounded like them. What was that band for you?
So actually, I grew up in a small town in Texas, and I was lucky enough. I mean, it is a predominantly white town, and not a lot of culture there. And I was lucky enough that my neighbor across the street, his older brother had spent some time out in California, and he came back with just the best hip hop records. And so I actually started off on like Notorious B.I.G., NWA. I never really got into Tupac that much, but Bone Thugs and Harmony. That's what I just grew up on. Loved it absolutely. Yeah. Hip hop was my jam until about 13. And I discovered I was with some friends, and this is what kind of got me into sort of like the stuff I'm into now. Someone had a Kerplunk CD. And this is well after, this is well after Dookie had, came out, but they had a Kerplunk CD, and I remember like I thought the artwork was cool. I actually have it tattooed right here. And I was like, "What is this?" And fell in love with it. Got this was probably about the time Nimrod came out, and so Green Day's all over the radio, and I had the CD, and and then discovered like the Offspring and stuff like that. So that's really sort of, but I didn't know what punk rock was necessarily. It wouldn't be.
You just knew it sounded good, right?
Yeah. I was like, this is great. I tried to get into like what everybody was getting into in like 1999, sort of like the alternative rock, some of the new metal stuff. I don't know. I just never could,
the new metal stuff. You never liked the new metal stuff.
I mean, I heard Limp Bizkit's cover of Faith, and I absolutely love that. Like it's the only song by them I really, really love, but but other than that, no, I tried to get into bands like, for a little while. It was very brief, like Rob Zombie and sort of like Korn and stuff, but it was always going back to, to the Offspring, and Green Day and Lit. I really like them a lot as,
Yep.
as a kid.
Yep.
And then, those little, what were they, like the Columbia House CD clubs or whatever?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, I signed up for about 5 of them. Had all this music just like sent to my house, and that's when I discovered, Blink-182, and it's actually kind of funny because like I'm getting all these bills, right? But like I'm 13 years old. I can't legally sign a contract anyways. My mom like freaked out, like called him, was like, he's 13. And like I just got to keep all these CDs. I mean, I got in trouble for it from her, but like I just, I had like 50 CDs and I was like, sweet. And I had picked some really good ones in there. So
yeah, I did this exact same thing. And I think I've been dodging them for 30 years now. I probably owe them about $30 million, in back pay or whatever. Yeah, that's so funny. But yeah, I'm a lot like you too. I first started off, I was having this conversation earlier today at work about where, because they asked me where I started like listening to music, and it was all hip hop for me. It was the most foulest crap. It was Eazy-E, DOC, NWA, Too Short, like all these like really West Coast, dirty West Coast rappers and all that kind of stuff. And I was huge into hip hop when I was a kid, because they were just telling stories that you had no idea what the hell they were talking about. But it was like, it's like I can't relate to that. Slick Rick, like I couldn't relate to what they were rapping about, but it was just it was almost like a comic book in my brain. And that's why I loved hip hop. And then Living Color came around and changed my life as far as like the rock, and they came out with Cult of Personality, and then it was all over. Then Faith No More came around. And then I got into metal, after Faith No More, and then I went out to the Navy, and I know we're going to talk about the military, but because I know you're in the Army, but I didn't get into punk until like probably 95, 94, 95 ish.
How old are you?
I'm 48.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just like a little bit. I would be remiss if I didn't mention though. Growing up, my grandpa really, really got me into a lot of old school country. So like Hank Williams, Marty Robbins, Johnny Cash, stuff like that. And so like, I guess that, I didn't have those CDs or anything, but like the first records I remember, I mean, I would watch, Grand Ole Opry, things like that. And actually, kind of a real quick cool story. So when I went out to Punk Rock Bowling, I did the stage management production, whatever, for Punk Rock Hoedown, for Punk Rock Saves Lives, and Coleman Williams, Four in the Strange band, he was playing one night, and like my grandpa was huge like Hank Williams fan, and he passed about 12 years ago, but my grandma, she's like 87. And I sent her a picture. I was like, I'm with, his like great grandson. And like, she like freaked out, thought that was like the coolest thing ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And like, I mean, he's a great guy. He's a super nice guy. And, I don't normally like, hey, let me take a picture with you. But I was like, my grandma will love this, and
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So, but
did you ever play any instruments when you were growing up? Were you in any bands growing up?
I did. I was absolutely terrible. I sang, played guitar, played bass. I probably haven't taken it serious in probably 15 years. But yeah, I was in a political punk rock band. We were called the US No Show, and kind of like a USO. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I got it.
Yeah, and yeah, and God, we were terrible. We were really terrible. I couldn't sing very good, but like I wrote all the lyrics, so like I didn't want anybody else singing them,
Right.
We didn't do much. I recorded like this like really crappy demo that no one will ever hear.
Oh, come on.
You know what? Maybe I'll release it, right? Just do like a digital release. Oh my God, I'd be embarrassed. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah.
My lyrics were good, but yeah, no, the last time I really took that serious, that was probably 09, maybe the end of, it was about the end of 08. And yeah, and then of course that's when I joined the army, and yeah, I just never played again. So
Yeah, so let's talk about the army. You were in 2009 to 2012, from what you
yeah.
said, right? And you had a couple deployments in Afghanistan.
I had one deployment. It was supposed to be
Okay.
12 months. I got there early, so they sent me there early, in 2010. So this is like the worst years of Afghanistan, and I was in the infantry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they sent me there like 3 weeks early, and then like when you get sent early, you're supposed to come home early. Well, they forgot, and I was like literally 1 day shy of getting like this extra like pay because you're there too long, right? And
Yeah.
like 1 day shy, they finally realized, like, oh no, like we're gonna have to pay him a lot of money if we keep him here, and they like flew me out. But yeah, I was 22, and
Yeah.
I was really poor,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
punk rock wasn't paying the bills. I mean, I was waiting tables and
Yeah.
just barely scraping by, and I honestly, I don't know. I was just like, I don't know what to do. And so, yeah, I joined, and I had never planned on being the infantry. I was going to be a crypto linguist, right? Learn
Okay.
all kinds of stuff. I did really good on all the tests and everything. And I get there, I'm ready to leave, right? I had waited like 6 months to go. And they're like, oh, your credit sucks. You no longer have a security clearance. And I was like,
Well,
okay. And
that's
they're like, you've got
yeah.
a choice of like 5 jobs if you still want to leave. And the jobs were like a firefighter, a cook, whatever. And I'd
Yeah.
just been watching Band of Brothers. I don't know if you know that show.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, and I was like, I'll do this, and I did, and um, yeah, and that's that story.
Well, thank you for your service. No, I was in the military too, so we share that in common. I was in the Navy from 1995 to 1998. I was on board the USS Arctic, which was an ammunition and oil supply ship. We were the floating gas station. We were the fleet bitch. We would refuel ships out to sea during deployments and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I went in undesignated, but I had high hopes of being a journalist and being in the Navy radio. And the recruiter promises you everything, like, oh, you can do it. You scored so high in your ASVAB, you can do whatever you want. But right now, you don't have the qualifications, but you could strike for it. When you get into boot camp, just tell them you want to be a journalist. So I was so naive. Halfway through boot camp, you go see your a yeoman or whatever to try to see if they can get you into an A school, and they're like, so here it says here you want to be a journalist, and I said yeah, and he goes, and then he just started laughing at me, and I was like, why are you laughing at? And he goes, man, you need 4 years of college before you can even get this like job or whatever. You have to have like your bachelor's degree in journalism before you can become a Navy. And I was like, well, my recruiter never said that. And he's like, well, you probably, after boot camp, you want to go home and talk to your recruiter. And I was pissed off. So I became a deckhand or deck seaman, and became a bosun's mate after that. And I was basically a deck monkey and painted and, swept and did all that kind of stuff during the day. But I got some good qualifications on the flight deck and did some really cool stuff. I won't lie, but yeah, I got screwed. Everybody has those stories when you're in the military, right?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I'd never like in a million years thought I would just end my service like time as an infantryman. My entire basis was kind of like yours, like get in, do what I got to
Yeah.
do, and then reclass. But when I was trying to reclass and take another job, they're like, oh, never mind, you're going to Afghanistan, and I was like, oh, okay. Which was cool, it's what I signed up for or whatever, like to do whatever I'm told, I guess. But and like in all fairness, like I made some really good friendships, and people that I talk to, still to this day. And, like if I'm on tour or if I'm, traveling or whatever, like I have friends in every place. Oh,
Yeah.
hold on. My phone decided to ring. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries.
I hope you're still there. There we go. Sorry.
There we go. Yeah, no worries.
It's just like pop. I was like, what's going on? I don't know how to stop that. But yeah, no, and so like that's in like last spring, got to see a lot of guys that I hadn't seen in like 10 years, just going on tour, and and that's something like that labels afforded me too, and
Right.
like, and I was actually going to bring this up to you. So like being military, but ex-military, but also being into like punk rock, right?
Right.
That was really rare, at least in the Army. And I mean, it's pretty rare in general for people to even like punk rock, right?
Yeah, right.
But
right.
But
'cause you're working for the government.
yeah, and I just but like those are the people I gravitated towards. So the last concert I ever went to before I deployed was NoFX with Teenage Bottle Rocket, and I think it was Tony Sly. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was before I deployed, and we went with this punk rock kid named Sean Boyle. He was one of my good friends back in the Army, and sadly, he had passed away right after we got back from deployment. And I never got to see, where he was buried and all that. And like tour took us through Buffalo, and he's in Orchard Park, and and I went to his grave, and man, like it was such a crazy experience. So this was last April. Was such a crazy experience because like I hadn't spoken to his family or anything, and like his mom drove by the cemetery and like saw me out there, right? And I looked forever. I was out there. I didn't know where it was. I was just, I'm in town. I need to go,
Right.
And ended up, hanging out with his sister, and we started talking, and we were just talking about like old stuff because it had been 10 years, and and then just I was with all kinds of, I got to meet all my old Army buddies, just all over the country. And so yeah, I mean,
it is a brotherhood, right? And it is you spend 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, in close quarters with those people, and from all walks of life. You become friends with people you never think about being friends with, and all that kind of stuff. And you're right. I have a whole bunch of friends all over the country too, as well. I don't do all the traveling like you do with bands and stuff. So it's harder for me to see them. But I did befriend a guy. And one of the main reasons why I got in the Navy is that there's a guy from LA who was on my ship, and he was a huge punker, and he got me into the Vandals, and he got me into the Germs, and that old school stuff, Black Flag and all that kind of stuff. 'Cause he's a little bit older than I was. And I'm like, oh, this is all great. But at the time I'm like, the audio production sounds like shit. And I was like, I really couldn't get into it. But, the Blink-182s and the Descendants, Everything Sucks came around. It was around that time as well. And it's like, this is the most incredible. Descendants, Everything Sucks. That was like my gateway into everything. Blink-182, Cheshire Cat was one of those too. But he got me into punk, and we were a bunch of punkers and all that kind of stuff. And so we would constantly, try to discover bands and all that kind of stuff. And, he would turn me on all these different bands, and then it just exploded with fanzines. I would get all the fanzines and all the record label mail order stuff. And, they would teach you about the like little bands and the little paragraphs. And, this band sounds, every band sounded like Quicksand back then. It's like, oh, if you're like Quicksand, you like this band. I'm like, ordered. It was just one of those things. But yeah, it is cool to have those friends around, and you're gonna have them for life because you depended on them for the time that you're in. So that's one thing.
Yeah,
that's
and
really cool
that's
about the military.
and that's what, and honestly, like I feel like that's what I get from music now too. Maybe not to the extent, but like just the networking. It's cool that like at least at this point in my career, I could literally go to any major city, and I've got somebody there who's like, "Hey, stay here."
That's awesome.
Kind of like we were talking before we went live. One of your buddies that stayed at your house, and I always try to when friends are in town, it's like, yeah, of course, stay here. Like that's and. Yeah, so I guess that's probably my favorite part about what we do is just like the networking and like making all these really, really really good friendships, with a lot of people. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about the beginning of Punkerton Records. It started in 2002, so it was before you went in the Army. So you started Punkerton for a little while, and then probably about 6 years, maybe. Were you doing it for 6 years, and then
no,
was
I
that up
only did it
until
for about
2009, or-
2.5.
did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I was 16. A buddy of mine, wanted to do like a charity event. We had to do it for schools, like a community service project or whatever. And I was sort of the go-to on like local music at the time. And he's like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And I'm like, "Sure, absolutely, I'd love to." And I knew even then, I was intuitive enough to know that, like, if I didn't have like an actual label or a name, or like just something above or below my name, no one was going to take me serious. And I don't know exactly how I came up with Punkerton, but yeah, I did it for like 2 years. And like the music side of things, like that wasn't a thing. Like there was a few demos and whatever. It was mostly about throwing shows. So I was more of a promoter than a record label, I would say. But yeah, that's how that started. So
I was going to ask you if Punkerton was a slang on Pinkerton.
Not the Weezer record. So, quick background: I have a bachelor's degree in history from Ohio State, and I'm obsessed. I said to my grandpa, old Western country music. I grew up on Westerns too, and the Pinkertons were always the bad guy, right?
Gotcha.
From a historical perspective, and I was like, I like punk rock, and I like, and I don't know, it just sounded, because like I never got into Weezer, so I didn't even know. Honestly, I wish the Pinkerton record actually was never called that, because if you ever try to Google my record label, it always autocorrects or it always sends it to a Weezer album. And I'm sure it's a great record. I've never listened to it.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating because it's like, did you mean to say Pinkerton? I'm like, no, I know what I typed. I know what I meant to say. Right. So, I mean, I understand the I and the U are right beside each other on the keyboard, but yeah, no, it's frustrating.
That's funny. So when you decided to bring it back, when did you bring it back? In 2020, right? So it was kind of mid-pandemic kind of a deal. It's what made you decide to like actually pursue it and actually want to put bands out and start doing this full time?
So the pandemic sucks for everyone, right? In a lot of ways. For me personally, about 2 weeks prior to the pandemic sort of shutting everything down, my stepdad, who was really my dad, he was my ex-stepdad, but he was by all intents my stepdad. Anyways, he committed suicide, and it screwed me up, right? Like I was just like, I was in a really bad state. And I was in the middle of a divorce, right? I had been married for like 9 years, and that was ending. So like, it was just like one thing after another. Right. So so with my dad, and then with the divorce, or the pandemic, and then the divorce, like that was all in about a 3-month period for me. And but during the earlier parts, especially of the pandemic, you'd see all these bands who were doing like these live streams and stuff like that. And I started sort of collecting vinyl because Jose from Make War.
Me too.
Yeah.
I
had been a fan of Make War for just briefly. And Jose was doing like this live stream on the acoustic guitar, and I was like really into him, but it was like 1 a.m. and he was the only, like nobody was watching except for me. And of course, we'd all been drinking, and it's like 1 a.m. Right. And he invites me into the chat or into the video, and I start talking to him. I never met him or anything, but he, before Make War was Make War, they were sad in French. And we were talking about that record, and he's like, I got like 3 left, and I was like, I would love one. And he sent me one. And so I started collecting all these vinyl records, and I was like, I love this. And sometime late summer of 2020, a friend from high school was like, hey, we're getting our old band back together because we've got nothing else to do in the pandemic. Like a lot of people did, they started doing more creative endeavors. And he's like, yeah, we're getting the old band together. Would you want to bring back Punkerton and release our music? And I was like, absolutely not. And later that day, I was serious. I was like, no, I have no interest. But later that day, another friend from high school was like, hey, our old band, we're getting back together, but we already got a record done. We're sitting on it. We've been sitting on it for like 2.5 years. Would you want to release it? And I was like, you know what? That's one of those here's your sign moments. And I was like, yeah. Okay, cool. And at the time it was just, we're going to release a couple of friends things digitally. We're not even going to do CDs. I'll figure out how to do all that. And yeah, that's how that started. So
yeah, like that's crazy. So how did you know how to do all that kind of stuff? Had you done that?
I had no idea.
Yeah,
I mean,
were you Googling, like YouTubing how to be a record label? Like how
yeah,
did you learn?
I don't quite remember who told me like about something like DistroKid or whatever, or no, CD Baby, because I had looked into CD Baby like way back in the day. Because when I was actually when I first started it, I'd read about them in like Punk Planet or something, this old like magazine, and as I looked him up, and that's actually who I started with. The very first release I did through like a CD Baby or whatever. But yeah, no, I had no idea. I was just like YouTube but also it's not here. Actually, it might be. If I have it, if it's right here, this is the coolest thing ever. Yep. All right. So I forgot that I actually had it here. I bought these when I was a child. I don't know if they're showing up backwards or what, but
no, they're showing up perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So these books right here. Sorry, it's switched backwards. I'm like, which way am I going?
Yeah, no.
But anyways,
it's straight on my end, so you're good.
Yeah, I had ordered those when I was like 16, and I just had held on to them for years, and so I read them, and there's like maybe 10% of those are still relevant. Because those were in the days of CDs.
Constantly changing.
Vinyl records weren't a thing. Streaming, digital, none of that was a thing. Not when I was 16.
Yeah.
And in the heyday of Napster, that was about as digital as it was getting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I pulled those out and just started looking up and who what to do or whatever, and a lot of trial and error, because we weren't taking it serious at the time. Like if I mess something up, no, it's not like there's a bunch of money being thrown at it or anything,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, that's how I do this podcast. It's like, the first probably 10 episodes, I'm just screwing things up left and right. I'm forgetting to press record. I forget to plug in my microphone, or like I'm doing something. Like every episode has its own like little things, and at the end, after everything's all said and done, I'm like, man, I fucked that up. But you know what? The next podcast, I'm not going to do that. So if you like, and to be honest, I'm probably the only one that can, that knows, what went wrong and all that kind of shit. But it just irks you. But it's like you have to do it, because I didn't know anything about this podcasting stuff. I went to school for recording engineering, and I was in radio for a whole bunch of times, but that doesn't teach you how to become a podcaster. So, or do YouTube or all that kind of stuff, and video editing and digital media and all that kind of crap. Everything such as life is just a trial and error, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I've had to sort of obviously teach myself and learn on the fly. But honestly, I think that's been really helpful, because I sort of have this philosophy that there's beauty in not knowing what you don't know. The label Punkerton, we do a lot of things for bands that most labels aren't doing, or that supporting them in ways that whatever other indie label they've been on in the past, they're like, wait, you do this? They didn't do that for us, and
yeah.
And I don't know any better. You know what I mean? Like at a certain point, I stopped reading, hey, what should I be doing? Except for like the legal financial side of things. Like, but I mean, as far as how to do things, it's about as DIY as it gets. I mean, it's really just me doing this. I have help from people, of course, but and I find that to be, I like that, because we sort of have a reputation for that, and
yeah, that's awesome.
I feel like that's helping us in a lot of ways,
Yeah, absolutely. And so speaking of which, I'm going to read a whole bunch of bands that are on your label. And, from where you came, you have Bad Year, Bone Knife, Danny Attack, which we talked about, Half Dizzy, our good friends from New York we've worked a lot with, Knives, Modern Angst, Middle Out, which I'm going to talk to you. We're going to talk about Middle Out here in a second. Panther Revival, we're going to talk about them here in a second, and Tony and Gravel. And it all started with Lame Ass Dads with with us. I know that you just put out their first record a while back, but let's talk about Middle Out. These guys are from Michigan. So this is going to be a good conversation because I put something out there on the interwebs as far as asking you questions. If anybody had questions for you.
Oh yeah.
And let's just say Matt from the band, the guitar player, singer, vocalist, had a lot of questions for you. But before we get into those questions, their latest single, Ballerinas, it's amazing. I love that song. I've been a big fan of Middle Out for a while. They had that EP, what it was called, Bender. Bender, yeah, it was really good, and I've helped them out on a couple of songs. And they've got a new album. It's a self-titled album on May 24th on your label. What can you say about these guys? What drew you into these guys and wanting to sign these guys?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't mention their drummer, Mr. Stover. He was in another band. He is in another band that was supposed to play one of my festivals back in 2022. He was supposed to play my Hell's Ohio Fest. I had him booked. I was doing a favor for somebody, and about a week before they were supposed to play the festival, they pulled out. And then I get this email from Mr. Stover again. He's like, "Hey, we're in this band Middle Out," and I'm like, "Are you the same guy?" And he's like, "Yeah." Like, I just kind of mess with him, like,
yeah,
because like I was in panic mode when they the other band pulled out. But no, they bring it back to Lame Ass Dads. Middle Out had sent this record, and then Ryan from Lame Ass Dads was like, "Have you heard these guys? You really need to check it out." And I was like, "Yeah, they sent me something." He's like, "Have you listened to it?" I'm like, not a lot, And he's like,
Right.
"Dude, they're so good. Like, it makes me not even want to play music anymore." And
Wow.
I was like, "All right." And I was on my way to Cincinnati to see Menzingers, and I was like, "All right, well, I got plenty of time. I got like a 2-hour drive, so I couldn't put it down. Like,
Yeah.
I played that through my truck there, 4 times, and I was like, wow, okay. And immediately was just like, yeah, we gotta figure this out, because this is a great record.
Social circle, but there's no one around. So it's sunny when your head is above the clouds. Hearing echoes when talking aloud. Pulses pounding with the knocks at my door. They'll continue till the door's worn and fists are sore. Like their other concerns are ignored. They ask what friends are for, till they don't come around anymore. Roaming like the last ghost in a ghost town. Did I say hero that I can let me down? Fuel to the flames. Let it blowing up in my face. And I'm counting all of the days till it melts away, but it stays.
So
Yeah, it's a great band, and funny dudes, and I'll go ahead and get into it. So so his first question is who's your favorite member of Middle Out?
oh man, it'd probably have to be DJ.
Oh, DJ. Okay.
Yeah.
DJ has a question for you too, so I'm gonna get. DJ wants to know if you remember when the University of Michigan beat Ohio State and won the national championship. Because they're from
It's
Michigan and
it's a
Ohio
tainted
State.
championship. It's tainted, so nobody cares. That is
Oh,
true,
that's
though.
right. Yeah. Yep. That's right. All right. So there's a running joke. Apparently, they think you look a lot like Mark Wahlberg.
Wow,
So they want to know, Mark or Donnie is your favorite?
Mark. Mark.
Okay.
I get that a lot though. It's really weird. I get that a lot. Like surprisingly, like so I used to weigh a lot more than I do. I've lost about 160 pounds.
Wow.
Ever since I lost probably about 140 pounds, I've gotten that quite a bit. I would say close to 50 times someone's said that I look a little bit like Mark Wahlberg, and I don't see it at all, but I'll take it. I wish I had like his six pack.
I did. Yeah, we all do. We all do. I didn't notice it until they said it, and I'm like, I can see that, but like I didn't see, you know, a picture of you and go, oh, that's him before Matt even said it. And the follow-up question to that is, what's your favorite New Kids on the Block song? You could skip that. Do you have one?
I was trying to think of one, but I don't actually know any.
Yeah. I was around back then when they were huge, and I don't even remember a song that they had. I know they did a Christmas thing too. All right, last question. This one is it's a really tough one. I don't know if you're gonna want to think about this one, but fuck, marry, kill, DJ Daniel or Matt. Which one do you?
You marry DJ.
Okay.
You kill Matt.
Okay.
And I mean, Daniel's sexy, so
he's sexy. Yeah. All right, there you go. All right, there's your answers. All right, so let's talk about Panther Revival. Their new song drops today. Decoy Octopus is out now. Man, these guys are hard. These guys are heavy. These guys are a little bit different than some of the other bands that are on your label. These guys are from Texas. Are they from your part of Texas?
Yeah. So that is honestly a big part of why I wanted to work with them. They're from Greenville, Texas, and that is where I grew up in the scene. Is there was this old club called Chauncey's. It was an all ages venue, and you know there wasn't a lot of options back then, especially when you were 16. But as soon as he said that, that's when I gave him a shot. You know, I wanted to listen, but they've got that real old school, sort of the old school hardcore, and you know I love it. I love it, and you know, they're Kennedy, the lead singer, guitarist, and bassist. He's such just such a smart guy and such a kind guy. And we talk for hours. And you know, the quality of this record, the production of this record, guy by Matt. I'm gonna probably butcher this, but Lefevre, if I'm saying it, sorry, buddy, if I didn't say it right. And out in Arizona, he did all the production for it, and oh my god, I mean, it is solid. It sounds great, and I love the politically charged. A lot of the, you know, like the racially charged and politically charged songs they got on it. It's coming out Juneteenth.
It's called Animality. Animality.
Yeah, and that's also awesome. Available for pre-order. But it's you know, I don't like a lot of hardcore. I never really got too much into it, but I did like a lot of the sort of like the early 90s hardcore, and that's for the majority of the record. That's what it sort of reminds me of, and you know, I'm stoked that they reached out.
I'm with you. Like I like hardcore when I'm in the mood for it. You know, bands like Snapcase and Comeback Kid and all that kind of stuff. You know, with Turnstile really doing it, they're great. Don't get me wrong. But the real hardcore stuff, the Boston hardcore, the New York hardcore, all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. It's like you got to be in that mood for it. It's not that it's bad. It's just like I very rarely, I'm getting older now, so I'm not in that mood to
Right.
really like just be angry. But I do love this band. I love the politicalness of these guys. You could tell that they mean what they say. Yeah, and it's really cool because you have a diverse lineup. You got pop punk, you've got a hardcore, you've got a solo act, you know, singer songwriter act. Is there any bands you wish could be on your label that are huge now, or any band that I don't know they would love to have, you know, aspire to have on your label one of these days?
So this is, you know, this is also a nod to another record label that I really admire, but Wiretap Records. They had released the first full length by Spanish Love Songs, and that would be a band. You know, I earlier I mentioned my father committing suicide. There was this I was on the way to his funeral in North Carolina, so it's like a 9-hour drive, and their song Otis Carl came over. Just randomly in a playlist or whatever played, and that song connected with me at that precise moment in time. And I swear I listened to that song from the very beginning of West Virginia till I got to all the way to North Carolina. I mean, just on repeat. And of course I'm upset, so I'm like crying and ugly crying and stuff. But yeah, no, that if there was ever a band, like, I mean, yeah, they're not, you know, super huge, but I mean, I've seen them a few times, and you know, they're really fantastic people. And the songwriting, to me, every record sounds different, but it's just real dark and very millennial, and you know, sort of like this millennial apocalyptic, you know, as they call it, grouch rock. Like that, and then maybe maybe I don't know. There's so many good things out there. Yeah, I got so many influences, but yeah, that's the band that would probably come to mind the most.
So if there are bands out there that are unsigned right now, you know, in your eye, you know, what do you look for in a band when wanting to sign or work with? Is it, you know, I mean, minus the connections, minus, you know, this friend from that friend, or, you know, from this label kind of deal. What if a band blindly emails you? What are you looking for in a band when you want to sign them or put out their stuff?
Honesty, you know, be honest about what you really want from a label and what you want from your own band. Integrity and kindness. Those are the major things, because I can't get past this. We really do have a culture at Punkerton with all these bands. All the bands hype each other up. I mean, honestly, I want all the bands on my label moving forward to be like the guys from what we're talking about, Lame Ass Dads. You know, Ryan, he is a cheerleader for every band out there. He hypes everybody up, and that's the number one. You know, obviously, you know, be good songwriters and, you know, play out and tour, but
Sure,
you know, as far as qualities in a band, like I want positive, like, good human beings, and because I like to work with those kind of people. You know, it makes obviously everything much easier, and you know, I try to be that kind of person myself as much as, well, I am. You know, and you know, so and yeah, that's really what I would say is probably the number one thing for me.
Yeah, that'll break down a lot of walls, right? To where it's like, okay, these guys are really cool. These guys, you know, have their stuff together. They know exactly what they want. You know, there's always time to coach or you know, just really get involved with their music, or if need be. But yeah, that's integral part, because, you know, they can be hell of a musicians and great, write great songs, but complete douchebags or assholes, or just not incompetent, and you never know. You know, they could be liabilities, right? Representing Punkerton, they're out in, you know, Wichita, Kansas, just destroying freaking PA systems and shit. You know what I mean? Like, so you definitely want to have the right people under your umbrella. And you, it's funny that you say that about like bands cheering each other on. I mean, every band under your label that I've helped out or ever talked to, they're always champion other bands on your label, and the bands that not necessarily are on your label, and the bands that I promote, you know. And that's what's really cool about the punk rock community. That's why I play a lot more punk stuff on my channel, because there's more people reaching out saying, "Oh, I love that band. I love this band. I love that band." And it's like, dude, it's like everybody loves each other. Everybody wants to see everybody succeed, and that's what's
Yeah,
really
we're
cool
all
about
we're
the
all
underground
coming up
scene.
together. Like,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about. Do you want to do some late breaking news before we jump off here? There seems to be, a kind of announcement you wanted to make about some kind of tour.
yeah, yeah.
You guys want to talk about that
So
right now?
yeah, I'll talk about that real quick.
Let's do it.
So this will be the official announcement. There is a 2024 Punkerton Records tour. It is going to be Bad Year from Milwaukee. It is going to be Middle Out from Detroit and
Nice.
Knives from Jacksonville, Florida. Um, there's going to be it's only going to be, it's a short run, so it's only about a week.
Okay.
But it's gonna I can't say the first stop on the tour yet, but the rest
Okay.
of it, they're going to be playing in Albuquerque, then they're going to be playing in Oklahoma City, then they're going to be playing in St. Louis, and they're going to be on Modern X is going to be on that show, so that's cool.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Nashville, Indianapolis, and then it's all going to be topped off with Forest Fest, which is in Morris, Illinois, just south of Chicago.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, and honestly, this tour wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Stacy and at Forest Fest, and her husband Eric. Sorry, buddy, you too. No, Stacy. Bad Year played Force Fest last year, and it was such a blast. This year it's got Vandaliers on it. It's got Bad Cop. John Snodgrass
awesome.
is going to be there, and several other bands. But Stacy was like, "Yeah, we can throw all three bands on that. That's cool." I mean,
That's awesome.
to be able to get them all three on there, it was great, and
Yeah.
that's probably, we'll be doing a lot more with the announcement and everything. But for that to come together, I grew up with like the Epitaph tour, and it was all Epitaph bands going on tour. I wanted to do something like that. I mean, I know it's smaller scale and it's nothing super huge yet, but it will be.
Dude, it's all a matter of time before you have Punkerton Fest, kind of like, what is it? Not like Punk Rock Bowling or, or Spam Fest, right? Spam out in Austria, you have all these big bands and stuff. Is that an aspiration of you, of the label, is that maybe have, and you're a promoter too, so it'd probably be one of those kind of, it would make sense, to do a big kind of festival. Is that something that you're thinking about down the line, or?
Well, that's the thing. So, I have been invited to help a little bit with next year's Forest Fest. I hope I'm allowed to say that. I'm not sure. But we're helping them with that. But also Moonrunners Fest is no longer in Chicago. It's registered in Chicago. It's now at Southgate House Revival down in Kentucky, and it's sort of like this folk, dark folk fest. And we sponsored it this year, and we're helping out in a lot of ways, and we're doing a lot of stuff. And so the game plan is, instead of trying to do my own big fest, it's just helping a lot of my friends who are doing their own other fests, to help them out in any way that we can. And so, just being able to top off our tour with Forest Fest. And of course, 3 weeks prior is Moonrunners, and, we're going to be there. And so, maybe one day we'll do our own sort of Punkerton Records Fest or whatever. But, for right now, I think that it's to get these bands that are already on the label, get them out into the world as much as we possibly can, sign on some, a few more, really, really amazing acts, and just release some killer records. And, things are going good. Things are definitely on the upswing for us. So.
Dude, that's awesome, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to me. And it's finally great to meet you after all these years.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, man, and I'm gonna be following everything, and seeing your progression, because I know from the past couple of years and seeing where you are now, man. You guys, the sky's the limit for you, brother, and I wish you all the luck and success with all the bands and the label and everything, man. But
No, I appreciate it. And the same thing, with your podcast, man. I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing for everybody. And I know that everybody appreciates the exposure, appreciates, the fun atmosphere that you give off on these podcasts. So
yeah, it's kind of weird because I was sitting at a bar with my buddy before I even started. I'm like, no one's gonna give a shit. Like, who the hell am I? Like, no one's gonna like fucking talk to me. He's like, dude, you don't understand. Like, there's so much untapped potential. I go, I know, that's the reason why I want to start it. As far as like bands, but then when I actually pulled the trigger on it and like all these bands want to talk and I'm like, okay, I'm not the greatest interviewer by any means, but like I've been running this page for a couple of years and developed relationships and all that kind of stuff. It just seemed to, come natural, regardless of my interviewing skills. I'm like, I just want to talk to people and get it out because that's what I love. I love independent artists. I love independent labels. That's what I've always loved my whole life. And if I can help out in any way I can and give back, that's the way I can. Because like you, I couldn't play a fucking instrument to save my life. I tried damned hard to play bass. I tried to be a singer. Well, I didn't try to be a singer. I thought I was, when I had a couple beers, I tried to be a singer, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's my way of giving back and, and you're doing your thing with Punkerton, man. And like I said, best of luck to you. I'm going to put the dates for the tour and all that kind of stuff in the description of this podcast, so everybody can check out where all the bands are going to be. So if you have any questions and links to the website, music videos, all that good stuff is going to be in the description. So any of the bands that we've talked about today will be in the description of this podcast. But Brandon Lewis, Punkerton Records, thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining.
thanks for having me. Appreciate it.